Hello again. It is Friday and we are together to have lunch and learn. As you know, the Versus Virus Incubator is slowly but surely approaching Demo Day. And around Demo Day, you will have to communicate not only your progress, but also all the other beautiful things that you've done. So, to help you communicate, today we have invited a very special guest and contributor to the Versus Virus Hackathon, as well as the Versus Virus Incubator. This is our communicator. His name is Viktor Vogt. Hi, Viktor. How are you?
Hi, Biljana. Yeah, I'm fine. Thanks for the invitation.
We are so happy to have you here today.
Thank you.
And I am personally looking so much forward to learning from you. Can you please take it away?
Yes, sure. So I welcome also everyone here on Zoom and everyone watching us on YouTube. I will start with a short introduction to myself. So my name is Viktor, and currently I'm doing communication for several initiatives in the startup sector. So mostly I'm working for Impact Up Zurich on a local level for Zurich, but I'm also involved in other projects more on a national level. This means Impact Up Switzerland, then our circular economy initiative, Circular Economy Transition, and as Biljana already mentioned, the Versus Virus Hackathon, where I also did the communication. And I invite you to follow all these channels on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So what will we talk about today? So it's all about communication. And these are the 5 focus points of today. And I try to make it as little theoretic as possible and as much hands-on as possible. Because I know you as a startup or a project, you don't have a lot of time and resources to do communication. So I hope to really give you some tips so you can communicate efficiently with the little resources that you have. And yeah, I propose that if you have questions like here on Zoom, you just interrupt me and I try to answer your question then, but we will also have time for questions at the end of the session. Okay, so let's start with the first point about communication strategy. So I will cover this very shortly. This is a huge area, but I think it's still very important to have in mind that the basement of all your communication efforts is a good communication strategy. And I think you should all have thought about these different points. You don't have to write a big paper about it, but before you start with everything else, I think you should go through these points. So, like as a first point, you can see these points as a one point following into each other. So you ask yourself, what is the actual status quo, starting with the market. So where am I located with my project or my startup within the markets? Who are my competitors? Who are my partners? What products already exist in the market that are similar to mine? And you also ask yourself, what are you can do like a SWOT analysis, which is strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So you ask yourself where I'm standing with my product or my project. And the second point is like building up on this is you asking yourself, who are my main audiences? This can be, depending on your projects, this can be clients where you want to sell your projects, but it can also be partners that you work together with, or maybe potential investors. If you have a local shop, then it can be neighbors, it can be your neighborhood, etc. So after this point, you will ask yourself, what is my project or my products or my company's core message? So what do I want to stand for, and how do I want to present myself? This includes also, what is my logo, what colors, what fonts, what kind of language do I work with, etc. And for this point, I advise you to also, especially if you work in a team, to create a short file where you note down these things, like when we communicate, how do we use our logo, what colors do we use, how do we contact our stakeholders, etc. And the next point is setting goals. So what are your company goals? And then connected to these company goals, what are my communication goals? So do I actually just want to maybe to raise attention about a topic? Is this my communication goal, or is my communication goal to like get more followers on social media, or is my communication goal like more a marketing goal that I want to sell more products, or have like more customers of my service? Depending on your project, these communication goals will be different, but it's important that you have them set and you know what you are working towards in the beginning. And then based on these 4 points, you can start to plan your communication activities, meaning to select the channels that you want to communicate on. This can be online or offline, and then offline it can be more like websites, advertising, or social media. And you can also plan during a year when you want to communicate what. So you see it's becoming, from a very, very general level, it's becoming more and more detailed. And based on this planning of your communication, you also have to ask yourself, what are my resources? And where do I need more support? Do I maybe have to allocate a budget to my communication for putting ads online? So make sure that you also ask, you have cleared things about this point as well. And then you start communicating, and I think this is an ongoing process. You monitor your communication efforts and you see what works well, what doesn't work well. You evaluate, and based on your evaluations, you can adapt your communication strategy. But generally speaking, the communication strategy should be something like a more long-term perspective that like different communication activities in a short-term perspective are based on. So this was already my input on the communication strategy. You see it as a basement of all your other communication efforts and what's coming up next. So the second point that I want to tackle is the website. You can see your website as your business card. You can also see social media channels as a business card, but usually it's good to have a website where you can refer people to, so people that are interested in your activities, they have somewhere where they find all the information necessary. So then, this is the advantage of having a website. You have a link, and people who write about you, they can also put the link of your website in their blog post, for example, or social media post. So also external people who read about your company, they have somewhere to go to find more information and somewhere where they can get in contact with you. And when you have a website, there are different analysis tools that enable you to optimize it and to monitor which pages of a website work well and which pages doesn't work well. And you can also use this optimization of your website to be found on Google search or other search engines. And so this means you have, to a certain extent, the power to decide how people will find you with your website. And there are, in my opinion, like 2 approaches towards building a website. You can, and one of these approaches is like using website builder tools. This is also one thing that is maybe the most easy for most of you. So I want to show you like these two approaches. So on the one side, there are complex content management systems like WordPress, and on the other side, there are like more easy to use website builder tools like, for example, Wix or Squarespace, etc. And like, let's cover the content managed systems like WordPress first. They are quite complex, but if you know how to do it, you can customize them however you want. If you have a website that is running on WordPress, you also have the data sovereignty. So all the things that are on your website and on your server, like they belong to you. They are not hosted on a third-person website builder platform. And another advantage is that it's not very expensive, because once you paid the server fee every year, and your domain and the templates that you work on, there are no big further costs. Like as I already mentioned, like the negative sides of using WordPress or another CMS is that it's very complex to set up. And if you want to really customize it according to your needs, you need to know how to code. So then on the other hand, we have these website builder tools like Wix or Squarespace, or for example, Strikingly, the Versus Virus website is based on Strikingly, which is also an easy to use website builder tool. So it's easy to set up websites there. They look great from the very beginning on. And you can also have free websites there, but then usually you can't select your preferred URL. You have a very complicated URL address if you use the free option of these website builder tools. And then the negative aspects is you can't really customize it. They are quite expensive if you use a paid plan, because there you pay like, I don't know, maybe $10 from the cheapest option one, and you paid every month. And yeah, this is like really expensive if you want to use a website for the upcoming few years. And some of these website builder tools, they also enable you to customize your website, but also there you need coding. And as I mentioned before, your website is hosted on an external platform or this building tool. And this means you don't have the data sovereignty. And in case you want to switch to another platform or switch to WordPress later, then you probably can't transfer your website so easily, because your data, all your web pages, they are just stored at this website builder tool. But yeah, to summarize this, I think as a start, it's easiest for your project to use a website builder tool to create a website. Okay, then let's go on with the topic of website. One really cool thing about websites is you can install Google Analytics, which is an analytic tool, and there you can analyze a lot of stuff. And you can use it in connection with the Google Tag Manager, which enables you to even analyze even more, like the behavior of people on your website. And just, because it's interesting, I copied here at the bottom some information from Google Analytics about the Versus Virus website. So you see, for example, in April, when the first Versus Virus hackathon took place, there were up to 20,000 people per day on the website, which is a lot. But you see also then after the first hackathon, there was a second smaller spike. But after that, there were only a few hundred people on the website daily. And another thing that is interesting, you see, for example, that people from the canton of Zurich were among they mostly visited the website, and second was more like the cantons in the French-speaking parts. Or you can see that like a slightly bigger part of the visitors used mobile or tablets. when they were visiting the website. And when you have information like that, depending on your communication goals, you can use this information and adapt your communication, or you can change your website if you want to change to make it more attractive, for example, for French-speaking visitors. Okay, then we go on. After the analytics, we will cover the SEO. SEO stands for search engine optimization. And this is basically things that you do on your website to make your website rank as good as possible on search engines. Like mostly it's Google, the Google search engine that we're talking about. And yeah, you can do this, but it's very time consuming if you want to really do it like on a weekly basis and professionally. And in my opinion, SEO is not important for every project. So it depends a bit on what your goal is of your company and with your communication. So at the bottom, you see two examples. You see Hackathon COVID Switzerland. You see that the versus virus hackathon is ranking first there because for these three keywords, our website is the best in Switzerland. But if you only search for hackathon COVID, then we are not ranked because there are other pages who use these terms more often and in a more efficient way. And for example, for us, for versus virus, for our website, in my opinion, SEO is not that important because there are not so many people who actively look for hackathons in the context of COVID on Google. But for example, if you're selling shoes or if you're offering consulting services, these are the things that people are looking for in their search inquiries. And I think if you have a business like that, then you really should invest in SEO. And I hope this is not too complicated. I will just cover it quickly. There are like two ways to optimize your the placement of your website in the search engines. One is on the page, like things that you can influence by yourself, by how you build up the website, and the other is off the page SEO. So one important thing is the quality of your content on your website. Google crawls all the websites, and then they have artificial intelligence to define how the quality of your texts and your content is. So this means really invest time in your content and not just use copy-paste text that you find somewhere else. Another very important thing is keywords. Like versus virus was ranked good because we used Switzerland, we used COVID, and we used hackathon a lot. And this means like if you know what your business goals are, you define the keywords where you want to be found, and use these keywords in all the texts and titles on your website. But it's a bit it's more complex than that. You shouldn't use it too often, but still decide on a few keywords and use them. And then there are other factors on your website like the URLs, how complicated they are, the keywords in the URLs, the speed of your website, how mobile-friendly your website is, how easily structured your website is, etc. And if you're doing a good job in all these sectors, Google will rank you on a higher position. And then there is this off-the-page SEO, and this is actually nothing that you can influence on your website by yourself, but you can influence it by networking and having, good contact with other stakeholders. For example, backlinks. If other important websites, for example, Wikipedia or big newspapers, are linking to your website, Google sees your website is relevant, and they will also give you a bonus in your ranking. Or if you are active on social media and you have a lot of social media engagement or good reviews on review platforms, etc., Google will notice that, and they will put this also in their ranking when they're ranking your website. And if you have a local business, I advise you to also create a Google business page, because this also helps Google, who is crawling your website, to see, this is actually local business. They have their location there and they are selling this stuff. So if a search query comes about this topic, I will show them this page first. Okay. And then the next slide, I won't cover it now because it's only some links for the people that participate in the incubator. You will get the slides afterwards and you can use these links for more information. Then another important term is SEA, which stands for Search Engine Advertising. Again, this doesn't make sense for all startups or for all companies or projects. But if you're selling something and you want to be found, and it's very important for you to be found on searches on Google, you can consider investing in search engine advertising. So meaning you go on ads.google.com and there you set up a campaign, and usually you pay by the cost per click model, which means your advertising is shown in the Google searches, but you only have to pay if people actually click on advertising. And on the right side, you see how Google advertising are displayed in a Google search. You see, I was looking there for Sports Zurich, and their BaseFit was presented me as a first result. And this is a Google ad that BaseFit is doing at the moment, and you see it with the short ad symbol. So this means if I click on this advertising, I will visit the BaseFit website, but BaseFit has to pay a certain amount of money to Google. This is the cost per click model. And you can't just invest money there and then be sure that your advertising will be displayed at Google. This is quite complicated. It has to do a lot with also the quality of your website. And by the way, if you're interested in this topic, Google offers free, now they're virtual, but they offer free courses about doing advertising on Google search. And this is just quickly how this works. So it's not about, or it's a good infographic to see that it's not just about the money that you want to pay that is deciding if your advertising is displayed or not. It's like the money that you're willing to pay in combination with the quality of your website. And then it's a very difficult calculation that Google does. And if you're willing to pay enough money and your quality of the website is good enough, then you will be ranked as a Google advertiser. Okay, so we go on. Next topic is about social media. And as a short warning for this, or what I think is important for you is here, this is very complicated and like complex, and different platforms, they are updating their algorithms and new features quite often. But I think it still helps for you to know what platforms are there and what is like the main purpose usually on a platform. But I think it's really depending on your communication goal of your project, on which platforms you want to be present. And also like the time resources that you have, it's quite time consuming if you want to be present with a good account on all platforms. So usually I think if it's more about like getting partners interested in your company, then it's maybe best to just create a LinkedIn profile. But then again, if you want to reach like a general public with your product or your service, then it's other platforms. Then it might be Facebook or Instagram, or the better solution. So there are other social media platforms, but here are like the biggest five, or the big five that I come across usually in my daily work. So we have Facebook, everyone knows it. It's great for building relationships, for brand loyalty. It's great for using advertising or promoting a product or an event. Then we have Twitter, which is often seen more as a tech platform. Yeah, it's good for public relations. It's quite fast. It's used for a lot of reposts, posting about your own opinion or cover events. Then we have Instagram. It's used if you have great image material or video material, then it's a good advice to use Instagram. We have LinkedIn, who is like the professional network, which is very good for business contacts. And we have YouTube, which is good if you're good in video creation, if you want to sell products or services or raise awareness. So some general thoughts. Yeah, just be present on the channels that are relevant to you. And the good thing about having social media channels is that it's not only you that's doing like publicity or promotion about your project, it's also others, because others can tag you or they can repost posts that you did. And by doing so, also people outside of your bubble, they get aware of your project. So if you create an account, make sure that it has the basic information, like a cool profile picture and relevant links. So if you have a website, so people, yeah, they can go further to your website if they are interested. Then I advise you to post news, pictures, and other content on a regular interval. This doesn't mean daily basis, but maybe if you can do a post every week or every second week as a beginning, or just doing reposts of other other content, that is a great start. Then, then adapt your the way you communicate to your respective platforms. So yeah, it's sure on Instagram you use more visual content in a more playful way, and LinkedIn it's more professional, and it's also like the news that you post, they are different. It's more about professional events or meetings that you had. Then, as I already mentioned, if you're active on social media, it also has a positive effect on how you're ranked on how your website is ranked on search engines. Then a general advice is to be responsive. If people react or ask questions, be responsive and ask give an answer as quick as possible. Yeah, then I advise you to build up some routines, how you want to be active on social media. So this can be 10 minutes every day or 1 hour per week. But if you have this specific window for doing social media, I think it's also easier for you to get into this activity. Then you don't have to do all your posts by yourself by sitting on your laptop. You can also schedule posts, so use this function. And there are also different tools. Some of them have a trial version or a free version that help you like to post the same post on different channels at one time. Or you can also use it for scheduling or also for analyzing your different posts. So if you're interested in being present on several channels, but you have very limited time resources, then I advise you to have a look at these tools. But yeah, then again, I think it's better to have a few or only one social media page where you really put some time into and where you are active, than just to have build a Twitter account and then not using it at all for 1 year. Okay, so I want to quickly cover the different tools and give you some recommendations and tips. So we start with Facebook. So yeah, first step, create a company page for your company or for your project. I wouldn't use your personal profile for doing this. It's really good to have a company page, and people who are interested in your project, they can become a subscriber or like the page. And then you start doing regular posts about news You can also just share other posts that you think are interesting if you don't want to create your own content. You can use your business page to comment other posts, and you just be active, make posts with link to other interesting articles, etc. There are also Facebook groups that you can use, like you can enter them, and then if your content is relevant, you can also start to post your content there and reach a different audience there. And Facebook is great for events. So if you're organizing events, even if it's just an online event or a very small event, use this function because it's great to promote it. Like create an event on Facebook. Then Facebook has its algorithm is changing quite often, and it's very complicated to know how Facebook is treating your posts. And I think the up-to-date status now is that companies, they have it quite difficult to have their posts reaching a lot of people. I think this is also a bit of strategy by Facebook, because the best way to reach a lot of people is by doing Facebook ads. So if your Facebook is really important for you and you have something in posts or a campaign that is really important for you, then you should consider to do some paid advertising on Facebook. And Facebook, as the other tools, they have built-in analytic tools which are very useful to know which posts performed how, who is your audience, when is your audience online, etc. Okay, then I continue with Twitter. Again, here, if you want to use Twitter, create your company page, start following other companies in your area and start to retweeting interesting posts of other profiles. And generally, Twitter has a much more relaxed approach to sharing, in my opinion. So if you make a post and you tag other people in this post, I think the possibility is much higher that you will be retweeted than to have a Facebook post or a post on LinkedIn to have it reposted by others. Because it's just the way how Twitter works. It's very quick and agile, in my opinion. This is also a reason why I think Twitter is ideal if you are at a conference or an event and you want to cover this event. Like you are in an event and you make posts about the different talks that you're hearing or speakers or the different sectors of the schedule of an event. I think it's very great to then just do these posts about these different talks, use the hashtag of the event or the exhibition, and the possibility that other people will then see your post and repost it is quite high. So live events, covering live events on Twitter is a great thing. So as I mentioned, tag other participants, because then they get a notification and they have the possibility to react to your tweet and retweet it. And the good thing about Twitter is if you're doing one tweet and other repost it, everyone in the other's followership will see this tweet. So this means with just one click by another person, your tweet has suddenly a much bigger audience. And this is what you need, especially at the beginning. So this is clear. Use hashtags that are relevant for your posts. And also Twitter has a built-in statistic tool that I advise you to use. And there is also this platform TweetDeck, where it's for free. It's created by Twitter itself. And you can also use it for scheduling tweets, but also for monitoring multiple Twitter accounts or specific keywords or hashtags. So again, if you are at a conference and you want to see what others are tweeting, so you can retweet, use TweetDeck. And here I've also linked a page where you can find more tips. And we'll go on with Instagram. Instagram is focusing on visual aspects a lot. It's more a younger audience that is using it. And especially the feature of doing Instagram stories is very good if you are an event and you want to cover it by doing an Instagram story. And yeah, so on Instagram, basically you can do normal posts that stay forever, and you can do Instagram stories, which are like 15-second videos or just static images, and they disappear after 24 hours. And yeah, they are displayed on a different section on Twitter. So it's a good idea to use both features to reach your audience on Instagram. You can also set hashtags on Instagram, which is also a great thing. And yeah, just use it and experiment a bit with what hashtags work well for you. You can also tag people on either your static posts, like normal posts, or also in your Instagram stories. And if you're doing Instagram stories, they only can be reposted by others if you have tagged them. So if you are at an event, or you want to announce something and the partner is involved, then just tag these other partner accounts on your Instagram stories, because then the probability that your story will be reposted and you will reach a bigger audience is much higher then. And unfortunately, the statistics or the analytics that Instagram offers is not very rich, but it's still a bit a good starting point to know what works and what doesn't work so well. Then LinkedIn is a very important platform, or for my project that I'm working on is often the most important platforms. It's very good for B2B communication. You have LinkedIn groups that you can use, like you have topic groups, for example, on, I don't know, cybersecurity. You can join these groups, and if you're working in this topic, you can post your company's content there, and maybe people will get aware of your company by doing so. Unfortunately, these LinkedIn groups are also used a lot for advertising, so I recommend you just to test it, how this works if you post in LinkedIn groups. You can also do blog posts on LinkedIn, which is also a great feature. Like if you have longer articles, you can post them on LinkedIn and then you share it automatically via LinkedIn. If you want to be present on LinkedIn, it's good to engage in other discussions and participate, and comment other posts and refer in your comments to your own solution, so people also outside of your bubble get aware of your company. Then very important on LinkedIn is tagging people or other companies, and this is a thing that is very successful in my daily communication activities, and I see this a lot, and often people are doing this at the end of the post, and very often they do this in a form of a thank you post, or if they participated in an event or a meeting, they do a post after the event and say, yeah, it was great to having participated in this conference. Thanks for this and this person and this speaker. And people who are tagged, they usually they feel honored, in my impression, and they will like your post or also comment on your post. So, and by doing a lot of engagement with these posts, your post will also be more visible in the Twitter pinwand, in the Twitter flow of news. And also on Twitter, use hashtags that are relevant to your company's offer. And there are other platforms like Xing, which is also similar to LinkedIn, but it's more used or only used in the German-speaking part. If you're really focused on German-speaking or like areas or like Germany, then it might be a good idea to create a Xing account as well. And there is YouTube. for creating video content. It's very efficient if it's corresponding to your communication goals, but it's also very time consuming to create great videos. But if this is something like video content that you have the capacity to do, and it's also fitting with your company goals or your communication goals, then it's just a great tool. Then I want to quickly cover advertising on social media. So you can do advertising on all the mentioned platforms. There are a few differences. On Facebook, you can reach a huge audience, and you can define the people that you want to reach in a very detailed way. You can also create lookalike audiences, like show my advertising only to people who are similar to the people who already like my page, for example. And for this is a bit advanced. You can also use Facebook Pixel. This is a code snippet that you install on your website, and like this you can also reach people on Facebook advertising by you can reach people with Facebook advertising that did a specific thing on your website. So it's a bit complicated, but if you're interested in, then check out how Facebook Pixel work. And advertising on Facebook is quite cheap, so you can also reach a lot of people with 100 or less money. And yeah, it's basically it works very well if you want to promote an event or a product. Then Instagram is connected to Facebook, so if you do advertising on Facebook, you can also select the option that your Facebook is shown on Instagram as well. And similar to Facebook, it works very well if you want to you have an actual call to action, and or if you're active in e-commerce and you want to sell a product and you want to do it by advertising. Then LinkedIn, you can also do advertising on LinkedIn. It's usually quite expensive, but the results are quite a high quality, because the people that interact with your advertising, usually they really are interested in your advertising. So if you're consulting, looking for clients or looking for investor or a partner, then it might be a good idea to look into LinkedIn advertising. It's less suitable for e-commerce stuff, because usually the broad audience that wants to buy a product is not using LinkedIn for this kind of stuff. Yeah, you can also do advertising on Twitter. It's also affordable. You can target your your goal audience quite detailed. Yeah, but it's not quite clear. Yeah, like the return of investment. So, is it really worth if a lot of people see your post, but what is it really worth in the end? How much do they interact, and what will they do in the end on your website? Okay, this just shortly about social media advertising. Then generally on social media, I advise you to not just do a post with texts, but always add an image or a video or a GIF, so something visual to your post. And for this, like for creating visuals or also videos to a certain extent, there are these tools like Canva is a free tool, or Google Presentation. It might be a bit surprising, but we use also Google Presentations for doing visuals for social media. They are very simple, and like the functions are a bit limited, but they still do their job because they are so simple. And the great thing is that they are like cloud-based, which means that if you're working in a team, several people can work on the same visual at the same time. So you don't have to send visuals via Messenger or email. You can just use these platforms. And one thing that works very well for us is also if you like to create templates of visuals, and then use these templates for all the upcoming visuals that you create. Like in these templates, they are based on your company guidelines, meaning, yeah, how should your visuals look like? Where do you put the logo? What colors are you using? What fonts? But then if you have this framework added, you can just like change, for example, the background image, and then you already have a new image, which is going according to your company guidelines. So yeah, really the great thing with Canva and Google presentation is you can work with templates and just duplicate your previous visual, exchange background, exchange text, and you're good to go. And regarding visuals, if you don't have good image materials by yourself, there are several websites who offer free to use or license-free stock images. I put here some links. So these are really great sources for image material. Then just shortly about video creation. I think at the beginning you don't need fancy stuff. So you can, if you're an Apple user, I recommend you to use iMovie as an application. It's not in Shop. Actually, it's in Shot, the name of the application. But with these applications, for example, they're also for Windows. They're also great free programs. You can create simple videos like where we have a starting screen with your logo, like text banners, call to actions that are above a moving image, etc. This is very simple to use and very effective. And if you're interested in video creation, I also recommend you to check out this how to create video session of the first versus virus hackathon. I also have linked it here. Then let's talk quickly about newsletters. So many, especially bigger companies, they're using newsletters as a great marketing tool. Yeah, I like newsletters, but I think it's important that you only send out newsletters if you have relevant content. And just don't force yourself to send out a newsletter every month, but then you realize that you're basically just copying the content of your last newsletter. So yeah, adapt the interval. If you're doing newsletters, you decide to do newsletters, adapt the interval of sending it out to your content creation. Yeah, there are free tools for sending out newsletters. We usually use MailChimp for all our projects and initiatives, which is free to use until you have 2,000 subscribers, I think. Yeah, one thing that is to be aware of when using newsletters, we have this data protection, privacy protection law. And this means you're not just allowed to add people, I don't know, from an event list or just people that you already have the email of to your newsletter. This is not legal anymore. So you really have to have your subscribers actively opt in to your newsletters list. And even though if you offer them the option to unsubscribe, it's still not legal to just add random people without their agreement to your newsletter list. And also, if you're sending out newsletters, be aware of the downsides, because you might have experienced this already. But if you're receiving a lot of emails, usually I put a less attention to the newsletters than to emails that are contacted to me privately. So if I see an email is having like the appearance of a newsletter with a lot of colors, etc., for me personally, I think it's less relevant than email that is a lot without fancy formatting. And this means like if you have a really important personal messages to your client, it might be a better idea to do a regular mail instead of using mass mailing tools. Okay, then the last big point I want to cover is about media relations, but I will skip some parts of it because time has already progressed. So media relations is very important, and it's a huge area. So as a first step, what I recommend you to do is to do a research and see what journalists and media outlets are active in your language region and in your sector, and then start creating a list of these email addresses. This can be specific journalists or just the whole editorial team of a newspaper. Try to establish contacts with journalists. So this can be with an introduction by telephone or email, but also if you are at events and you get to know a journalist, try to strengthen this connection. Also, social media is a great way to get in contact with journalists, because in the end, like media relations, yeah, it's about relations. It's about journalists that you have a good relation to, and in the end, this is a lot about the success. If your company name is appearing in big media outlets or not. If you have relevant events or not relevant news, but like really news-worthy content, then you might consider writing a media release. And it's also depending on who your audience is. You can consider writing it in several languages. But again, here it's really important that it is newsworthy. If you're just launching a product, especially as a startup or small project, this is not interesting for news outlets. And yeah, especially considering that it takes a lot of time to create a great media release, it's often more efficient to just contact a journalist directly with a very short email telling, hey, we are launching this project, are you interested in? And then if the journalist is interested, then you send out more information. And another tip is, if you have a product or service and you want to get into media, try to find a hook or a connection to a current topic. Like for you, it might be COVID, like there are new developments, updates on a almost daily basis. So if you find a good connection of actually happening to your product, and then you can pitch your product in this connection to a journalist, and chances are quite high that the media will be interested in your product. And generally, always have in mind that media and journalists, they are always interested in stories. So they are not interested in your product that is launched, but they're interested in how your company started, the people behind your company, how the development of your product went, or yeah, like for the Versus Virus project, a good story would be like the COVID situation, then yeah, the Versus Virus hackathon, how you found together as a team from different sectors, and now how you're willing to create a benefit for society, and this is why you create this your product. So something like this. So the following slides, yeah, they are more detailed about how to create and send out the media release, but I will skip these, but you can read it afterwards. Just as a quick note, if you're not sending out a detailed media release, you can also just create a media kit, like create a Google Drive folder or like a page on your website where you put all the relevant information about your company or like your story, meaning like text info, visual info, info how people can get in contact with you. And then you can also just send out a short email and then referring to this media kit. Because if media are catched by your first email, they will have somewhere to go to find more information. And if you are sending this email out to partners, they also have somewhere to go to where they can find more information. And they can also use this information and the visual material to maybe support you with communication. So here, now this is what we did with the Versus Virus hackathon. We created a media kit with prepared texts, prepared visual, general information about the Versus Virus Hackathon. And we sent this all out to many, many partners or potential partners. And these partners, they could use the information that was on the media kit to create their own newsletter entries or social media posts. And yeah, this was very successful. And for concluding or finishing, just a few tips when working with journalists is put yourself in the role of a journalist. Journalists don't have a lot of time. They have very short period of attention. So make it as easy for them as possible to get to know what your project is about, and give them all the relevant information or like a link to a media kit or your website. So they have to do as little research as possible. Then if you work with journalists, always keep to deadlines. If you're like sending content to journalists, again, put yourself in their position. Don't write, we are launching a new product or we having this offer. Just write it in the perspective how the journalist would copy paste it in an article. So write, startup XXX is launching a new product. Then if you have if you're lucky and there are publications or mentions about your project, always say thanks to the journalist, because like this you are strengthening the relation with them. If you have the possibility to change something in a draft of a text, then be nice when you ask for changes in a text that a journalist or like in an interview that a journalist is offering you for reading through. There are some platforms that are happy to receive news about startups. So this is Startup Ticker, for example, MoneyCap or the Booster magazine. So if you have a product launch, or like if you're on a stage where you really have something to show, it's not just an idea, but it's actually your project or your platform has already launched with a pilot, then it's a good idea to contact them and present them your project in a very short, nice email. And also, it's a good idea to monitor media, so to see what media writes about what topic, or also are there media who are already writing about my company. I advise you to install Google Alerts with your company name or like the topic that you want to cover, and Google Alert will you then send in a frequent period updates when there are new articles that are mentioning your company or a specific keyword. So you'll find the link here. And this was actually it. I know it was a lot of content, but I think if you read through everything again and maybe also have a look at the links that I put, then I think you have a good basis to start communicating efficiently for your project. And if you have questions, you feel free to contact me. Here is my email address. And I also want to highlight this excellent source of information who a former colleague of me here at Impact Hub created as a master thesis. This platform is a great source about all aspects of communication for startups. So it's a great start also to have a look at this website.
Thank you very much, Viktor. This was really informative and very useful, which is what we want to do, right? We want to get things done. We have a quick question in the chat. I know that we are a little bit limited time-wise, but nevertheless, Miguel, would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Sure. So I was wondering, when you mentioned the bids and the quality score of a page, that was how Google works. Do you know if other search engines like Yahoo, Bing, DuckDuckGo, etc., work the same way?
Actually, I'm not quite sure, but I highly suspect that they work in the same way. And Google has actually a lot of data online. So there is a file where you can see how this whole crawling process of Google works and how they, in the end, determine the quality of your website. But in the end, it's really a lot about the content that is visible, but also the content like in the structure of your website, like in how the code of your website is made. And you can maybe as a starting point see it as try to make it as easy as possible for Google when they're crawling your website, so that Google knows what your website is about. Because in the end, you also, a step further, you can think about Google wants to offer its clients a good experience, and a good experience means people who are looking for shoes, for example, they find only pages that are relevant for shoes.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And is the quality of the page the same thing as PageRank, that algorithm with network effects and how many pages link to my page?
Yeah, in the end, this is very connected. Page ranking. Yeah, I mean, in the end, the quality of your page is determining how your page is ranked on an organic Google search. So if you have a good quality score, you are covering the right keywords, you will be ranked very high in a Google search that is looking for these quality scores.
So my question is, if it's a brand new page that is not linked by any other page, does that have the same quality score as the same page that is linked by many others for advertising?
No, this is something that you have to build up, of course.
Okay.
And there are so many factors that determine how the Google is ranking a page. I mean, it's also if your page is very new, then it's also very difficult to know for Google what your page is about, and they will be a bit maybe suspicious in the beginning to really know if your page is relevant, because new page, maybe it's just a spam page that is online for 1 week and then it's disappearing again. So this is really something that you have over time invest some time, some resources into this topic.
Thank you very much, Victor. Unfortunately, I think we'll have to bring this great presentation to an end, just because we want really to stick to the time. You will be able to find Victor's presentation in the Versus Virus Slack channel. So please make good use of it. And next Friday, we will have Vivian Marcelino Lima, and she will be helping you to understand how to build partnerships. So thank you very much, Victor. Thank you very much, everybody, for showing up. Thank you very much to the viewers on YouTube, and we'll see you again next Friday. Stay healthy, happy, and have a lovely weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.